Hello, everyone. Thanks again for joining me for another episode of Constructive Conversations. I'm Lisa Maitland, your host, and today we're going to be talking about project management. I have with me Mr. Carlton Romain. Thanks, Carlton, for being here.
Welcome.
And he's going to tell us everything we need to know about project management. How are you?
I'm fine, and I'm happy to be here.
Great.
Supporting your good work.
Yes.
And happy to share some project management information
Yes.
with the general public.
Thank you. Yeah, it's so important, I think, for persons to know about the field. And I just want to start with that first question. What is the role of a project manager? And how does it differ from the role of a construction manager?
Well, first, let me try to explain the role of a project manager first. And then we probably will discuss the construction manager, and we'd see how we could have some sort of differentiation.
Okay.
What I would explain first is that the role of a project manager in general terms are not necessarily related to construction management. Now, project management and the project manager is more or less a person who can manage a project on any sphere, any platform, any type of work going on. So it doesn't necessarily relate directly to a construction project.
Okay.
So you can project manage weddings, you can project manage concerts, you can project manage events, not necessarily only construction. So once a project manager learns project management, he or she would be able to apply those skills directly to any project. So that is generally project management. The project manager generally is more or less the first line of contact that meets the client, regardless of whatever project it is. The project manager would work with the client in bringing ideas to projects and then eventually turning them into a product or something that is tangible. So for instance, if we look at a wedding, a project manager managing a wedding would probably meet with the bride and the groom or the key stakeholders in the wedding. They will put the wedding planning together, and then it would eventually evolve into the actual day of the wedding. If we bring it home to construction, where I am a project manager and largely involved in construction related projects, I would meet with a client. I will look at the client needs, what the client wants. I'd look at critical aspects of the whole project that the client would want. And then I would put all of the parts of the project together for the client before I would bring that out, before the client will actually bring it out to the public. So in other words, the project manager would set up the project. He would look at the project schedule, he would look at the project time, he would look at the project budget, he would look at the project stakeholders, the project needs, the project environment, and he directly reports to the client in bringing the project together. Two critical aspects of project management in the very early stages, and again at any project level, is defining the project. And defining the project is identifying exactly what the project is. Once you can define the project, then you would be able to get the project off the ground. In most instances, the client will understand what the project is, and then you develop something called a project charter. A project charter will tell you exactly what the project is, what it is about. It will identify the stakeholders, it will identify all the key points in the project, including the budget, the time, and whatever the case may be. So those things are the critical areas in starting a project, but it is important to get them right at the beginning, regardless, as I said earlier on, whichever type of project you're doing, those principles apply across the board. You did say what is the difference between the project manager and the construction manager. So now we're dealing directly with a construction project. Now, the construction manager would largely do a lot of what the project manager would do, but it would be confined to the construction project or whichever aspect of the construction manager is dealing with. So the construction manager will deal with schedules, he will deal with time, he will deal with resources, he will deal with budgets, he will deal with ensuring that the project is completed within time, scope, and budget, which is also principles of project management, time, scope, and budget. The construction manager would be directly related to the construction project, whichever type of construction it is. So it could be a building, it could be roads, it could be bridges, whatever type of construction project, the construction manager would be directly involved and related to it. Whereas the project manager will have an encompassing, more holistic look at everything, including what the construction manager does, what the clients need, etc., etc.
So there is some overlap, but not entirely. It's not overlapping entirely in terms of duties and responsibilities and that kind of thing.
Well, I wouldn't say overlap, but I'll say similarities.
Similarities, okay.
So for instance, the project manager is responsible for schedule, time, and budget. But he is responsible for all of that in relation to the client.
Right.
The construction manager, in most instances, is also responsible for schedule, time, budget, scope.
Yeah.
Okay.
But only for
that particular project. Okay. So that is the difference
between the two.
The construction manager resources the project, so he would look at the human resources, the equipment resources. Whereas the project manager would look at the overall resources of the project, how much construction manager, how much technical person involved, all of the other critical resources of the project manager would be responsible for that.
Okay. So I know you touched on it a little while ago about relevance to other projects, but if you could just unpack that a little more for me, tell me how are project managers relevant to other types of projects, other projects outside of the civil and built environment?
Okay, well, that is a good question, and I'm glad that you raised it again so that we could probably add a little more beef to it. I would have practiced project management in project management principles in supporting a concert team. I would have also applied it to large-scale carnival events, large-scale carnival party where from 6 months before the actual carnival in Trinidad and Tobago, we would put together a team of persons that would be responsible for the event, and critical to that team of persons is the project plan. So I would work with the team and we would put together a project plan for the events, and the project plan would have all of the ingredients that is necessary to bring this particular event to a climax on Carnival Saturday. And when I say large scale, it's very large scale, where we would be catering for probably about 4,000 to 5,000 patrons coming through a particular gate, so that you have to put things like infrastructure in place. You have teams dealing with artists, you have teams dealing with food, you have teams dealing with infrastructure, you have teams dealing with decorations, you have teams dealing with the setting up of the venue, teams dealing with music. So there is where project management goes directly into an event that is outside of the civil and built environment. So what I am saying is that once a person understands project management, they can apply the principles across the board to any single event, whether it is large scale, medium, or small.
Wow. So it sounds as if there are a lot of parts, a lot of moving parts that you have to manage. A lot of moving parts.
Well, yes, there are a lot of moving parts, but the moving parts are managed with understanding the principles of project management. Now, one of the things, we would not be able to address every single aspect of project management here, but the critical aspects of project management is the scope, the time, and the budget.
Scope, Time and budget. Okay.
Every event has a scope, every event has a time, every event has a budget.
Okay.
And those are the things that the project manager manages in collaboration with the client, or what we would call the project champion or the project stakeholders.
Okay. Tell me about what I'm seeing in the background. Is that like a scope, a detailed plan of the scope or the budget? What is that?
So this is a detailed plan from mobilization to completion of a construction project.
Oh, okay.
It will identify all of the activities throughout the life cycle of the project,
Okay.
from the beginning of the project to the closeout and the actual handing over the project to the client. So every single activity, I know the camera may not be able to pick it up
Yeah.
in detail, but every single activity that is actually related to the project is outlined on these charts here, and you could go through it and update it,
Okay.
check the activities to see if it is on schedule, if it is on time, if things are happening according to it. You could make adjustments to it as the project go along.
Okay.
This probably is the third iteration of the actual project schedule that was updated and reprinted and displayed.
Oh, okay.
So that any one of the persons involved in the project could come and look at an activity, and they would be able to say, well, look, this activity was scheduled for this particular date. These are the sub-activities for it. Is it on time? Is it, what percentage it has been completed?
Yeah.
How we going? Is it behind? Is it ahead? Does the activity has any slack on it? If you look at it, you would see some red on the chart. The red on the chart is what we call the critical part. Again, this type of project programming or scheduling can be applied to any project across the board, not just construction projects or projects related to the civil and built environment.
Wonderful. So seeing that you manage so many aspects of the project, tell me how much would it cost to hire a project manager as yourself?
So project management fees and fees generally is what we would call somewhat contentious.
Okay.
So that I would want to refer to the computer so that I could give a clear indication of fees are structured, so that we would eliminate any ambiguity with persons listening to the program.
And I hope you all are paying good attention, because this is some really useful information.
So fees are generally hourly rated, flat fee or percentage fee. Now, an hourly fee is a fee that a project manager would work out with a client for appearances on the project. And it is usually a fee that comes about when there is some clear definition that this is what I want you to do. These are the time frames that I would want you to appear on the project, and this is the fee that we agree on for the hourly rate.
Okay.
Whereas a flat fee with a fee again that the project manager and the client will work out in lump sum for project management, and it will help the client with budgeting and other aspects of it. The more traditional fee that we are accustomed to is the percentage of the project fee, which is the more common part of it. Now, percentages range depending on the size of the project. So sometimes a small project, the percentage will tend to be a little higher than normal. And whereas with a larger or large scale project, the fees would be within a particular range based on the percentage or the example. So for a large scale project, the fees may range between 1.5 and 5%, whereas with the small scale project, it would be slightly higher. Now, one critical aspect of project management fee is coming to an agreement with the client. So it's not like you're going in there and you say, this is the project, this is my fee, take it or leave it. It is always, fees are always negotiated, but negotiated within the confines or the principles of the scale of fees or the confines or principles of the profession. So in kind of clarifying it or making it simple is that most project managers would sit with the client and they would work out the fees based on what is required, what is the requirement of the project. Now, it is slightly different with government projects.
Okay.
Because the government sets their fees.
Okay.
And say, this is the percentage we pay in,
Right.
take it or leave it.
Okay.
That is the more or less the ambit in which the government functions with. Whereas in other cases, it can be negotiated. And what happens with fees when you negotiate it is that in most instances, both parties are happy. The client is happy with the fee, the project manager is happy with the fee, which makes it better for relationship in terms of the execution of the project. Because one of the things that you would not want to do is to be executing a project, but there's hostility in the environment. Like the project manager not happy with the fee, the client not happy with the fee.
That's never a good situation.
And then you're having challenges. You know, so you want to be able to execute the fees and execute the project, but at the same time you want both parties to always be happy. So happy from the beginning, with augur well during the life cycle of the project, and assist well to the end of the project.
Nice, well said. Okay, so my last question to you is advice. It's about advice. What advice would you give to someone listening? Someone who's desirous of starting a project? Okay.
Well, the first and the most important thing is for anybody who's starting a project is to understand what they want. What are your project needs? Do not attempt to start a project and you're not sure what you want. So it's important to understand what you want, what are your budget, what are your time frame, and once those basic things are understood by the client, then you can start discussing the project.
Okay.
For example, a client may want a simple thing as a house bill, but they're not sure what the budget is for the house.
Yeah. Oh boy.
They're not sure what time frame they have for it, and they're not sure about the design of the house. But they go ahead and they start.
Yeah.
And then they run into many challenges.
Oh boy.
A client could want to do a concert, but they're not sure what budget they have for the concert. They're not sure when they want to host the concert. They're not sure who are the artists that they have planned for the concert, but they say, you know what, let me start to plan this concert.
Yes.
So they plan the concert, then they stumble upon challenges with the venue, the cost of the venue. Then the initial advertisement, they wanted artists A, B, and C.
Yeah.
But when they talk to artists A, B, and C, they realize the cost is prohibitive.
Okay.
And they run into problems. They have they want to plan a large-scale event, and they're not sure what the perimeters of the event is. A carnival fete, for instance, they start to organize the carnival fete, but then they're having problems with artists, with food, with all of the different elements of the project. So my advice to anybody who is starting a project is to understand exactly what you want.
Okay.
By understanding what you want, you could talk to a project manager who would then give you advice in terms of how to start the project, how to get it from point A to point B.
Okay.
Get it through the project life cycle.
Right.
Understand the critical parts of the project, which is the scope, the time, and the budget. It applies to every single project across the board. So once you understand that, you could put other project management principles to this project. Develop your charter, define your project, and then you can start off putting the other ingredients that is necessary to get the project done.
Wow. Nice. Thank you for sharing that. That is good advice. Really know what you want. Know what you want. And that would make the process a whole lot easier from the get-go.
And remember, it applies to small projects, it applies to medium projects, and it applies to large-scale projects.
Because sometimes we think, well, okay, it's a small, just a small project, something that, you could manage. And when you really get into it, that's when you understand how many, moving parts, I like to say, involved.
Projects fail at the beginning, not during the life cycle of the project. Projects fail because of poor planning at the beginning of the project.
Right.
And that is where it is critical to plan at the beginning, define your project clearly, and the rest would fall into place.
Good. Well, there you have it, folks. Really, really good information, really good advice. Thank you so much, Carlton, for sharing with us today. Thank you for tuning in. I want you to leave your comments about this conversation. Tell me something that you gleaned from it. And if you have not subscribed to my channel, you can do so and share this video with others. Thank you for tuning in for another episode, and I'll see you on my next video.